Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ideanthro Movement. On today's episode, why regular high-intensity interval training builds dysfunction in your body from a movement point of view. This is week 2, coming to the close actually of week 2 on Ideanthro Movement, where we've been talking all about our emphasis on skill development as opposed to building of physical attributes. To talk about that today though, we're going to look at the opposite of it, which is high-intensity interval training. If you are just interested in getting ripped and toned and those sorts of buzzwords you find in the fitness industry, it's actually quite a good way to do that in the short term. It'll certainly get you, at least in the short term, those results that you want. The problem we have with it is, as we're going to explain in this video, is that in the short and certainly the long term, there's a really quite fundamental flaw here that will make you dysfunctional from a movement point of view and really quite leave you potentially exposed to risks of injury and the like. Now, I'm not going to mention any particular high-intensity interval training brands in the process of this, but I'm sure you know some, and I'm sure you can find some if you need to. So, let's get into this. Why on earth could this incredibly popular buzzword at the moment type training system build dysfunction from a movement point of view? The first thing you have to realize here is that our bodies and the way we move are a response to the stimulus that we've provided them throughout our life to date, and also to our in particular genetic factors. Now our bodies are made up and our particular lengths of different parts of our body and particular makeups and types of muscle fibers and all of that stuff. But what we choose to do to our bodies imprints movement patterns, imprints physical abilities, current ways that we stabilize, stabilization patterns, movement patterns, and the like. The point is, then it means that because we don't live in the natural world that our ancestors evolved in and our bodies evolved in, we live in the modern world, which our bodies aren't totally adapted to because our movement situation has changed. We all come and we all carry with us certain degrees of movement dysfunction, certain degrees of movement that aren't optimal right now. And that's totally okay, because the body is incredibly resilient and can actually resist a huge amount of movement dysfunction before pain and injury present themselves. That's actually a story for a whole nother day. But the point here being is that we're all carrying around a bit of dysfunction. A bit of stuff, you're a little bit overextended through your lower back. Your shoulder just doesn't quite sit the way it probably should. Whatever the situation is, we're all carrying around a bit of this dysfunction. And then you come to do whatever sort of training that you do. And with your best intentions, you are taught the correct technique and the best intentions of your trainers as well. You are taught the best techniques. You're taught how to do it really, really well. The importance of technique is emphasized to you. And then you try and do it at intensity. The problem here is that because we've come to this with some forms of movement dysfunction, we have movement patterns, and they can be very, very, very subtle, that are stronger than others. And so when you're asked to do something that's at your limit of what you can do, whether that's in strength or cardiovascular ability or muscular endurance, your strong patterns will last longer and be able to do more work than the patterns that you're weak in. But the problem is, if we've come to this with some form of movement dysfunction, then those stronger patterns are in some way dysfunctional. So you go and do this at intensity, and the patterns and the musculature that aren't currently strong, aren't currently good, get worn out quickly, or don't get used at all. But either way, you pretty quickly default into these poor but strong movement patterns, and you do more of them. And the SAID principle tells us specific adaptation to imposed demands. We get better at what we do, and we get better specifically. So, that was a swoop. I haven't been swooped for several episodes now. I just got swooped by another bird. I wonder if that's actually showing up on the video, or whether you guys are just like, Jack, you just keep flinching. Anyway, the point is, the SAID principle means that we come into this high-intensity training, we default to our dysfunctional but strong patterns and do them, and so we get better at them. So the dysfunction gets more entrenched and more set in, and it gets even stronger relative to the patterns that are perhaps more functional but less strong. And so the divide grows bigger, and so they get further entrenched. And you do it over and over and over again, and you make yourself more and more dysfunctional. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a place for intensity, but it's not regular intensity. It's doing a bit of it here and a bit of it there because it has its uses, and we definitely are designed to go intense every now and again. I'm going to throw a little thought experiment at you in a minute. We definitely are programmed to go intense every now and again, but not to do it all the time. Let's think about it this way. Why might we be programmed to go with intensity every now and again? Just to explore. Well, if it's not good to do it regularly, should we do it at all? Let's look this way. When would our ancestors have used intensity? They would have used it when running for their lives. What might you be running for your life from if you're an ancestor? You might be running from a lion or a tiger or a cheetah or a bear, or a whole bunch of things that are probably quicker than us. So if you had to run for your life every single day from an animal that's quicker than you, do you think you'd survive many days? I don't think you'd survive many days. So therefore, do you think that we had to run for our lives with high intensity regularly? No. This thought experiment essentially says, yes, we do, or we did, our ancestors did do things with high intensity, but because those things were things like running for our survival, and because we were doing them in response to animals that were probably quicker than us, we probably didn't have to do them regularly. We probably used other ways to avoid having to run for our lives and avoid having to go to absolute intensity. As it turns out, humans are far better endurance athletes than they are power athletes. Right? So from an evolutionary point of view, that thought experiment suggests that we aren't designed to go with intensity regularly, but we are designed to go with it occasionally. But bringing back to the original point here, intensity is good, it has its uses, but just doing it really, really, really regularly for the reasons that we described is only going to build movement dysfunction and nothing else. That's it for this episode. Thank you for tuning in. One more thought, actually, and it's for this reason that we don't do as much training with intensity. We know that you can do high intensity training if you want to get ripped in the short term. That seems so weird, me even saying that, because that's not really our goals of our training, right? Our training is to build a safe and sustainable movement practice that allows you to do really cool and useful things in the real world over a lifetime. We realize, though, that you could get ripped and show these really good short-term results, but it's not what we're about, all right? So it's for that reason that we don't put in intensity really, really regularly. It's useful, we can get outcomes with it, but all the time, no, not part of our approach to movement. Okie dokie, that really is the end of the episode now. Thank you for tuning in. If you liked this episode, by all means, give us a like or a subscribe. If you have any questions, would like to get in touch, you can find us at ideanthro.com/connect. If you'd like to know more about our approach to movement, including maybe finding out about our facility at Oxley in Brisbane, Australia, you can go to ideanthro.com/movement, or you can go to ideanthro.com/free-trial and get a free trial at our facility. Cool. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time and next week, where we're actually moving off the skill development topic and on to the third tenet of our movement practice, which is real, actual human movements.